The Palestinian issue through the eyes of a kindergarten teacher, How to Defeat Peter Pan. Dedicated to Mark Pinsky, scientist and friend. The median age of a Palestinian is a mere 15.5 years. Every victory, even a temporary one, exacts an eternal price. I'm convinced that everyone should do what they are trained for. Doctors should heal, teachers should teach, and ministers of security should safeguard. A cook should not govern unless the state's chief issue is crafting a well-prepared meal for 6 million. Yet this cook cannot stay silent if those tasked with solving national issues spend her money on proving why a meal cannot be cooked. Hence, Israel's struggle against terrorism in Gaza is essentially an armed conflict with children deeply engrossed in the game of war. If war experts find themselves at a loss in solving a chronic conflict, it seems only logical to consult child experts. Speculating on why, out of all games, these children chose war, or exploring who encourages war as their preferred form of play, leads to exhausting and unproductive debate. These discussions divert us from the core issue: how to win this war, how to cease the chronic bloodshed. It must be clarified that the forthcoming recipes are only pertinent for those who genuinely view the current situation as a war, and those who do not perceive the Arab-Israeli conflict as merely a conspiracy theory. To start, it is crucial to recognize that the Israeli military is dealing with an army of Peter Pans, for whom death is merely another adventure. It is impossible to persuade a child absorbed in war to stop playing. A child will voluntarily abandon their play only once it ceases to entertain. A child immersed in play will continuously alter the rules, make agreements, and then immediately break them because the child's goal is to prolong the game. A false treaty makes the game more intriguing, and a final treaty ends it. A child playing at war is ready to win at any cost because he views himself exclusively as a hero, either as a living hero or a martyred one. To him, the distinction is non-existent. Thus we must ask, how does one defeat a hero? Despite the challenges, there are ways to overcome an army of Peter Pans, and I, as a certified preschool education specialist and a martial arts instructor, identify 3 approaches. Kill Peter Pan. The most cost-effective and efficient method is total genocide. It involves the methodical, uncompromising extermination of the population, or their total relocation to remote regions where their lives would be consumed by a struggle for survival in extreme conditions such as the taiga, deserts, jungles, or permafrost. This seemingly straightforward solution harbors a significant flaw. No non-totalitarian government will assume responsibility for such a course of action. This approach demands an unequivocal tyrant, a person willing to shoulder the entire burden of this final solution. This individual would bear the future brunt of national guilt, which would weigh on the national consciousness for centuries. Any economic boom resulting from such a final victory would be viewed by the victors not as a triumph, but as a monument of national disgrace. For Israel, this option is untenable, not only due to the Holocaust's memory, but also because of the peculiarities of the Jewish national character, an inability to blindly follow any doctrine issued by an individual. The traditional Jewish stance towards any authority rests on the belief that to err is human. Corruption of Peter Pan. Corruption involves attempting to prematurely age a child, not for his benefit, but to entice him with the allure of adult life for which he is unprepared. This means inundating the playground with appealing toys that children would deeply regret losing. These toys include luxury cars, European-style palaces, and even the option to import glamorous, leggy beauties from abroad. The primary issue here is not the toy's costliness, nor is it that in a self-provided sandbox without strict nanny oversight, there will always be one strongest toddler who will attempt to hoard the maximum number of toys. The core problem is the mistake of treating this most grown-up toddler as a mature partner for peace negotiations. Sure, this particular child, along with his closest allies, may momentarily cease playing at war as he has other distractions, but he is unlikely to prevent others from engaging in combat. This naive colonial strategy employed by Israel has been tested repeatedly across various global regions throughout history, always yielding decent but invariably temporary results. Victory here transforms a national liberation war into a civil war. Why does this transformation occur? In this context, the competitive aspect emerges prominently. Within a children's collective, every child wants to be the only leader, thus temporarily turning external war into internal war. A division of toys begins, among which the opportunity to show off on camera becomes a primary concern. It's crucial to remember that in children's internal wars, as in external ones, possessing toys, the functional value of toys, is not the ultimate goal, yet the number of toys determines the status of the child engaged in war, which carries a high cost. The typical childish attitude towards these undeserved, unchildlike toys is so careless that it sometimes borders on flagrant vandalism. Why is such a victory inevitably temporary, typically suiting any democratically elected government serving a short term? Because subsequent developments follow one of two scenarios. Either the child leader, the victor of the civil war, exhausted by the constant internal struggle for power and seeking an escape, will need to divert his people's focus from himself back to the sworn external enemy at the cost of losing the source of the toys. Thus, the internal civil war for power becomes an external national liberation war again, or the child leader, tired of the relentless internal power struggle, having matured finally, taking a few loyal allies and a small chest of money, retires to well-deserved rest in a place where for a time he will not be judged for crimes against his own people. Back in his homeland, everything starts anew. The only justification for the Israeli public's loyal attitude towards its government under such policies is that not all toys are purchased with Israeli blood money. Creating conditions for Peter Pan to want to grow up. Education is an effort to encourage the child to mature exclusively for his benefit, to charm the child with the delights of adult life as fruits of his self-realization. Devaluation of the current war game as a means of self-realization. The assessment of self-realization for a war player includes real effectiveness, the number of wounded and killed, the amount of material damage inflicted, perceived effectiveness, media coverage of real effectiveness. Success in self-realization is always a combination of real effectiveness and its significance in the eyes of society. The feeling of success in one's activities boosts self-esteem and encourages the desire to continue such activities. A child judges the success of his actions not so much by their actual outcomes, since he has not yet developed a scale of objective assessment of his activities, but by how those around him assess his actions. The more people assess, the higher the evaluation in the child's eyes, and the higher the societal rank of the evaluators, the better. The level of righteous anger, the level of national mourning, as well as the level of regret over the inability to do anything, the futility of efforts, and the level of intensity in discussing unrealizable problem-solving are all indicators of the success of this self-realization, just as the damage itself. Skilled journalistic coverage of terrorist activities has created a romantic aura, which has gained its own value in the eyes of both terrorists and the general public. It is no accident that young people worldwide who have no relation to Palestinians began wearing Palestinian scarves as active life stance symbols, just as children globally wear jerseys of popular football clubs. This indicates that the media regards playing at war as no less valuable than playing football, maximally attractively highlighting this area of activity, promoting its stars, and indirectly promoting sales of thematic accessories. In such a situation, the conclusion is clear. We must devalue playing at war as a form of adult self-realization. How can this be achieved? Firstly, it is impossible to devalue the actual results of the war game, the human and material losses. However, it is possible to devalue the societal significance of terrorist activity, portraying it as the actions of socially ill individuals genuinely regret that despite all the specific measures taken to improve their lives, creating hospitals, schools, jobs, there are still instances of such infantile behavior as terrorism, playing at war. Declare hope that these individuals playing at war, terrorists, can find a useful application for their abilities in areas of public life where they would not be ashamed of their achievements. It is counterproductive to boast about resistance to terrorist acts For example, the bus was empty or no one was seriously injured. This fuels competitive interest and automatically provokes another attack. It is inappropriate to write about manifestations of fear and panic that have resulted from playing at war. It is only appropriate to express surprise and regret. The role of the media should be such that journalists specializing in writing about terrorism focus exclusively on the aspects of terrorist activity that usually remain unseen. Discuss how terrorists actually live in constant fear for themselves and their loved ones. Talk about their financial instability and their desire for domestic well-being, which they seek to achieve through such an infantile method. Present their activity as an act of desperation by individuals whom society has failed to help find their place. In conclusion, the terrorist should transform from an anti-hero image into an image of a loser, a person worthy only of pity who, not knowing how to live properly, seeks his own death while causing grief and suffering to everyone around him. Nevertheless, it is crucial under no circumstances to absolve individuals from blame for choosing terrorism out of all possible activities. An ill person is guilty of his illness if he refuses to see doctors, take medicine, and thereby wishes to prolong his suffering. This kind of behavior is a demand for attention at any cost, a classic manifestation of egocentrism, a state typical for a child. However, it is not advisable to ignore undesirable activity in children. Indulgence is also perceived by the child as a positive reaction, as such interpreted by the child as uncertainty of the adult in established behavioral norms. Therefore, it is essential to respond, but the response must be adult-like. An adult-like reaction to manifestations of age-related imperfection in a child. Behavioral infantilism, one of whose illustrations is playing at war, looks like this: a clear, calm assessment of the child's behavior as undesirable. Defining such behavior as shameful and immature. A clear declaration of the demand to cease such undesirable behavior in the future. A constructive approach to solving problems that provoked infantile behavior. Offering correct solutions to problems that would be optimal in the particular case. It is necessary to unhesitatingly declare that the right to be considered a people and to be named a state can only be earned in the eyes of other states through constructive activity. Just as a child earns the right to be called an adult, not because he constantly annoys adults and makes their lives unbearable, but through the respect he rightfully gains based on his ability to live without external help, just as all adults do. A child is considered a child as long as his physical, spiritual, and material well-being depends on others. I hesitate to extend these analogies further, but I must continue. A child who will always depend on the help of others in the future is called a childhood invalid. And a childhood invalid is doomed to perpetual patronage by adults, a situation equally torturous for both the child and the surrounding adults. If people living within the borders of the Palestinian autonomy aspire to the status of people, nation, state, and at the same time do not condemn the terrorist activities of their representatives playing at war, then it means that these people do not understand the meaning of these concepts. Therefore, it is necessary to patiently explain that killing foreign engineers, doctors, teachers will not produce their specialists, just as destroying foreign schools, hospitals, and kindergartens will not create places at home where one can go to be treated or bring their child to learn to live long and happily. Patiently explain that contemplating others' pain may momentarily distract from one's own pain, but it cannot cure it. Elevating the value of alternative games, success in sports, science, arts, and national economy. In this case, we consider opportunities for socially acceptable self-realization for the most active players in war. That is, let's discuss how to transform hunting into photo hunting, allowing a hunter to fully enjoy his hunting zeal, overcome challenges and pride in trophies without taking lives. Playing at sports. Since playing at war is most similar to playing at sports, it's sensible to hold discussions with world-renowned coaches about the possibilities for Palestinians to achieve in various sports, detailing the material benefits of success in this arena. Engage with famous circus artists about the careers of those with extraordinary abilities in the entertainment industry. Genuinely admire Palestinian acrobats who climb the separation wall and discuss how such skills would be financially valued in the circus arena. Conduct interviews with directors of Hollywood stunt schools regarding the high chances Palestinians have of earning money in such a complex and extreme profession. These discussions should not remain purely theoretical. Sports societies should be established, which would serve as addresses for sports producers to seek sporting talents. Sports competitions should be conducted regularly with the aim of selecting professional teams. As an example, stone throwers could try their hand at baseball with the aim of a professional contract, or in track and field, javelin throw. Enthusiasts of physical confrontation might try their skills in boxing, with the aim of a professional contract, and wrestling, with the aim of participating in show fights. And of course, there must be a constant search for new stars in football and basketball arts. It is necessary, for example, to hold graffiti contests on the separation wall on the Israeli side on the theme "The Future of Palestine." Let a jury of renowned artists assess the artistic value of the drawings and award cash prizes, from a minimal participant's prize to a grand prize for the winner. Competitions in singing and dance talents should be transformed into competitive tracks with comparable Israeli contestants. Conduct international fairs for the sale of distinctive Palestinian handcrafted products. Organize demonstrations of the peculiarities of Palestinian cuisine. Arrange competitions, tastings followed by discussions which should be broadcast on YouTube and other online channels. In all contests, the strongest should win, but every participant deserves respect. Science, school and university student science Olympiads with cash prizes. Thorough coverage of these events by Israeli media is essential. National economy, agricultural exhibitions, sales showcasing successes in livestock and other agricultural sectors. The media should emphasize the unique indigenous approach and the difficulty of the objective conditions under which these results were achieved. Perhaps even go further. Permanently open a Middle Eastern VDNH, exhibition of achievements of national economy, and let every nation, state in our region, demonstrate the level of milk and honey for which so many have perished. I am fully aware of the naivety and superficiality of the proposed solutions, but unfortunately there is no alternative unless we wish to burden our descendants with an unatonable guilt for the death of both our and others' children. Any teacher and any sergeant will confirm that to prevent children from being drawn to dangerous mischief, they must be kept busy from dawn till dusk. And no more effective occupation has been devised for a child than self-realization. Surely we won't actually bombard Palestinians with drugs or, using modern technology, broadcast pornography to them 24/7 via all communication channels. In short, as long as Google's first noun accompanying the adjective Palestinian continues to be terrorism rather than footballer, actor or scientist, the efforts made will be deemed insufficient. A person who can shoot is a soldier, a person who can shoot very well is a sportsman, a person who can shoot like no other is a circus artist. The most brilliant soldier merely preserves his life with his skill. A good sportsman achieves fame, but the most ordinary circus artist, without putting his life in constant danger, always earns a decent living. How many of our intractable terrorists understand this? It's clear that educating any child requires money and more money, but neutralizing the results of the uneducation of even a neighbor's child typically requires a lot of money. Let me explain with an example. If we don't want to change broken light bulbs every evening, we need to pay for the troublemaker to attend an archery club. If such a club doesn't exist, then it needs to be organized, or we must stop complaining. So, gentlemen, in any case, funds must be invested, but not as handouts, acts of goodwill, but as truly earned fees. And for those who continue to seek simple and short magical paths, it's worth reminding that a person is not an animal. A person is only pleased by unearned food once, but on all subsequent occasions it offends. And an offended person will always find a way to seek revenge. And if not on us, then certainly on our children.